and welcome on Coach QC's podcast. Today, I'm very happy to have special guest Anthony Phaesse from Australia. Anthony, thank you for being here and welcome on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, man. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I've been waiting a long time to have you on the podcast, as I really appreciate your work and the message that you're bringing out, which I share a lot of views.
Yeah, I've also been watching a lot of your videos and we seem to resonate pretty much the same message moving forward. So let's see today how we can combine the two together and amplify this message further for the people.
Of course. So could you introduce yourself and maybe tell us what led you to a full animal-based nutrition?
Yeah. So my name is Anthony Phaesse. I've been a certified personal trainer, strength and conditioning coach since 2001. So I've been in the space of body composition, body transformations since the very beginning. And I've used, well, for the people that know me, they would know that I've pretty much tried every diet out there is. And I've used many approaches to get people into shape. I came across what's now known as the carnivore diet, but back in the day when I first stumbled on this, it was called the steak and eggs diet by a gentleman called Vince Gironda. And I was an avid student of his. I researched and read all of his courses and everything he's done in the past, his training philosophy, his nutritional philosophy. He was 50 years ahead of his time, this man. He was well ahead of the norm. And everyone speaks about the Atkins diet, but this guy came up with the high-fat, low-carbohydrate diet long before it was even a thing. And he would use the steak and eggs diet, which was called the high-definition diet, to get his competitors. He trained a lot of film stars back in the day, and a lot of Hollywood stars would go to his gym and get in shape using this diet. So I stumbled on this back in 2003, and I didn't know it was called the carnivore diet. To me, it was the steak and eggs diet or the high-fat diet, the high-definition diet. And then I think it may have been 2017, actually a bit later. I'm not sure when it was, when I saw it was Joe Rogan interviewing Sean Baker, and he was on the carnivore diet, and then he'd throw in some eggs from time to time. And I thought, hold on a second, that's the carnivore diet now? It was, I knew it as a steak and eggs diet. So that's how I stumbled on initially what I like to call the proper human diet back in 2003, and then now popularized by Sean Baker in 2017 as the carnivore diet. So yeah.
Okay. So I know you also have a very interesting understanding about the relation between hormones and metabolic health.
Yes.
Could you tell us more about this as well?
Yes. So when I first started personal training, I had no idea how to get people in shape. I came from a sports background and I was training sprinters and marathon runners. And I just thought exercise was the Mr. Fix-It. I thought if you train someone long enough, hard enough, they would probably get results. And I had a very high failure rate as a personal trainer. So I had clients would come in for 4 or 5 weeks. They'd stick around because I'm a good guy, a friendly guy, but they weren't getting the results they wanted and they left. And this all changed, and I moved to London in 2009, and I met a doctor, and this doctor was very switched on, and he taught me everything there is to know. He said that hormones are what govern every metabolic function in the body. Everything's governed by hormones, including when the body is going to be storing body fat or when it's going to be liberating fat for fuel. Building muscle, losing muscle, it's all governed by hormones. There are these chemical messengers and they instruct the cells how to perform certain tasks. Metabolism, blood pressure, everything's governed. Even the sleep-wake cycle, getting a tan is governed by hormones, satiety and hunger. And once I discovered that, I started using the power of the ketogenic diet and then using these lipolytic hormones to optimize body composition and to pursue health first whilst trying to achieve body composition, when really it's the other way around. Most people Today, they're trying to lose weight in order to be healthy, whereas my motto is you've got to be healthy to lose weight, not lose weight to be healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been using this since 2009 when I first discovered it, and then came across and then created the Lean 7 program, which covers the 7 hormones that govern fat loss, body recomposition, and a little concept I like to call as youthful aging. Youthful aging is the phenomenon whereby we call epigenetics, how the very nature of our lifestyle has an impact on the expression of genes. And I've noticed anecdotal evidence that the clients that start using this carnivore approach, we call it the carnivore glow, there's a different look to people's faces. And I've grown up in an era of training many bodybuilders. And with all due respect to their unwavering willpower and discipline, but bodybuilders aren't the most youthful looking athletes. From the neck and down, they look incredible. From the neck and up, they look quite weathered and aged. And this youthful aging phenomenon came about because I started noticing as I was applying these 7 hormones, not only were clients getting in shape, they're also slowing down the aging process and bringing back some of those incredible genes that they've got.
Mm-hmm. So when you studied with that doctor in London, could you put together the steak and egg diet? Did you make a relationship as you were understanding the hormones and then the benefits of what the steak and egg promoter?
Yeah. So initially, when I was using the steak and eggs diet, I wasn't just using steak and eggs. I was undertaking a ketogenic diet, which included some plants.
Mm-hmm.
And it was only through the introduction of Dr. Anthony Chafee that I discovered only recently that plants are trying to kill you, or plants have these toxins and they're trying to defend themselves. And I didn't know anything about that because in the past, on the ketogenic diet, I still incorporated plants for certain clients. So the steak and eggs diet was one aspect of it. And then I was also using either that or a standard ketogenic diet. But for the most part, both of them, one thing they have in common is the balancing of insulin, the controlling and managing of insulin. And I label insulin as the damage control hormone.
Mm-hmm.
And I quote Will Rogers, who was a socialite back in the 1930s, who said, "If you find yourself stuck in a hole, then stop digging." Meaning if you find yourself in an untenable situation, untenable meaning a place whereby you don't have much leverage and you're trying to get yourself out of a difficult situation, well, it serves you to stop digging yourself to exacerbate the process of digging yourself deeper into a hole. And I find when people are experiencing obesity, metabolic syndrome, insulin is the main culprit here. So it makes sense to control the one hormone that's responsible for lipogenesis, which is a fancy term for fat storage.
Mm-hmm.
And so both the ketogenic and the carnivore diets have one commonality, and that is that they both control insulin. And in the works of Dr. Benjamin Bickman, who studies fat cells, he grows fat cells in labs, he says it's impossible to grow fat cells in the absence of insulin.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically the first hormone that I help. For people that are getting off the standard American diet, standard Australian diet, the first thing we do is typically we would get them onto a ketogenic diet, because going from one way of eating to then extreme into a carnivore tends to be a touch much. It tends to be a little bit aggressive, a bit extreme. Not only that, but the microbiome may not adapt in such a drastic change, and there needs to be some kind of transitioning from one diet to the other over a 6 to 8 week period to prevent gut dysbiosis, to prevent the microbiota that may not be used to these new kinds of foods in the absence of others.
But with the popularity nowadays of this carnivore diet, I see on my side many people who, once they understand or they, let's say, foresee the benefits of it, they jump into it, I think, very too quickly.
Yes.
and it not necessarily goes very well all the time.
Yes.
And people then express a negative experience, but I think you probably have a thoughts on that, right?
Yes. I've stumbled on earlier on when people get excited about this kind of way of eating and they see testimonials and they read comments on YouTube and they get so excited to get on this and they get on it prematurely and don't have the best experience. Not all of them, some do, but many of them actually don't have the best experiences. Some end up having loose stools, some end up having digestive disturbances and so forth.
Hmm.
And they prematurely quit when the body is probably going through a turbulent transitionary period. And yeah, sometimes it might be an oxalate dumping, sometimes it might be certain purging of toxins. We don't know that, but it needs transitioning, number one, and then it requires tenure or stickability over enough period to then warrant the results that you would get on the carnivore diet.
Hmm.
And I would probably say 90 days is where it's at.
Because I think it also comes from an emotional side from people when they, I feel like, I think if you are studying it and you find a why for yourself, then it will be easier to stick to it if you're more rational about it. But if you just jump into it by emotions, that's when I feel it becomes very difficult to stick to it on a long term.
Yes. And also, many people who do enter the carnivore space, they tend to do so because maybe they've had an experience, a health scare of some kind. They're trying to heal an illness, some disease that's lingering around, and they don't have a second choice. They've gotten
Mm.
to a place whereby they have no other option but to eliminate to the bare essentials, and they eliminate to the bare essentials, and they feel incredible. They experience an array of healing benefits from the carnivore diet, and I'm one of those. I can tell you it was a bittersweet experience knowing that the very feeling I've been searching for all this time came um, at the expense of the very foods that I like to eat and I thought were okay for me. But the more I eliminated, the better I felt. And the feeling I was searching for had to come with this level of what people call restriction, which, by the way, I think restriction is a blessing. It's not a curse.
Mm.
And yeah, the more you add, the more you take away. The more variety you add to your experiment, the more difficult it is to discern what's doing what to your body. But as you play the elimination game, now you get to pinpoint. Now people that are doing this, that are sticking around for years and decades, they're not doing it because they have to do it. They're
Mhm.
doing it because they want to do it, because nothing makes them feel any good, any
Yeah.
better than this. That's why they do it.
Hmm. Usually the case when people think when they don't experience a bad condition, bad health condition, they usually feel that they are at their 100%,
Correct.
where they are at maybe 50 or 60%. So I always advise you have to experience it to feel that you were only at 60 and now you're 100. Would you go back or not? And yeah.
Yeah. It's just it's this what we call an opportunity cost. In marketing, an opportunity cost is the sacrificing of one thing to achieve another.
Mm.
If you want to look, feel, and perform your very best, then you get to that. And now nothing tastes as good as how this feels. What gets under my skin is people that judge this way of eating without ever experiencing, without ever giving it a full 90 days. They stand on the
Hmm.
outside, they make opinions about something without ever doing it, and then stating that opinion as being absolute. never once having tried it. Well, don't knock it till you try it. Do it for 90 days and then come out of that. Now you have a contrast in experiences. Now you know what it feels like being on, and now you know what it feels like being off.
Yeah. So just to make clear for the listeners, what would you say to people who argue that 100% animal-based diet would be deficient in vitamins and minerals?
Well, for the record, if this way of eating is a proper human diet that's been around for 4.5 million years, if this way of eating had any deficiency in vitamins, minerals, or essential nutrients, we wouldn't be around today. The very reason why this is the proper human diet and it has every single thing you need is because we're around today to tell the story.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, if carbohydrates were essential, we would not have survived the last ice age of 70,000 plus years. Simple. So not only did we survive, but we thrived through this.
Mhm.
There are certain vitamins, minerals, nutrients that are found in meat you can't find in plants. There is nothing in plants you need that you can't find in meat.
Mhm. Let
That's
alone
absolute.
the essential amino acids.
Correct.
So,
You don't need fiber. Fiber is not an essential nutrient. You don't need vitamin C. The very vitamin C that you need when you're on a carnivore diet is in the nanograms, and it's perfectly found in the very meat we eat.
yeah. So no scurvy on your side.
Last time I checked, no. Yeah.
Okay, good.
And I know carnivores who've been doing this for decades. So, yeah.
So here's my next question. When I
Mhm.
look through history, I can see a correlation between the explosion of the fitness industry around the 80s, the 90s, and all the pseudo-scientific studies justifying the absorption of carbs as an energy fuel and the whole seco nonsense. What
Yes.
people believed until today, I guess, is that the only thing that makes you fat or in some extent sick would be the lack of exercise. And I personally think that the fitness industry has become big food and big pharma's shield over the past 3 decades. So my question to you is, knowing what you know now about the metabolic health and training, what do you think of all the nonsense that is still being pushed in the fitness industry when it comes to nutrition and metabolism?
Yes. This is such a great question because I've noticed a similar thing take place. And that is, at the moment, this is an observation on my part, but it seems to be that the very people, I mean, you can see it in any platform, any social media platform. And I know many fitness influencers, but the ones who support a particular way of eating, which supports big food and so forth, they tend to have an amplified following. They tend to have their reach is uh, further out than some of the carnivores are in. They have more of a controlled type of reach. So there's something going on right there. If you are mainstream, there's a reason why you're mainstream, because you're not poking the bear.
Mhm.
If you poke the bear, best you know, you're probably not going to reach mainstream. Meaning, truth is not measured in mass appeal. And if it's following a particular narrative, chances are excellent that narrative is going to get you further. And yeah, I mean, I know fitness influencers with millions of followers, and they go out and they preach the 6 meals a day, proteins, carbs, low fats, calories in, calories out, which to some degree, look, there is some truth to the energy equation. There's no doubt about it because I work with that. And they reach a massive array of people. Why is that going on? Why are the ones who are doing carnivore? What's the word they use? Shadow band, is it, or something of that
Mhm.
nature? They just don't seem to have a high reach of people. For many years, their subscribers stayed a certain amount. their followers stay at a certain amount. Something's going on. And I do feel there is this one hand washes the other. One's goal is to get you sick. The other's goal is to keep you sick.
Mm.
And it's this symbiotic relationship going on there. And one's goal is to keep you fat. And that's probably the fitness industry.
Yeah.
Because if everybody's in shape, then who needs a gym? You know, if you knew how I train clients and I recommend the way that I train clients, that would make most gyms broke. So there is some role to play with the fitness industry and how they work in conjunction with big food. And then big food works in conjunction with big pharma. It's this perfect circle. One's goal is to get you sick. The other's goal is to keep you fat. And the other's goal is to keep you sick. So that's how I see it working. Now, I could be wrong about all this, but this is an observational call, not a judgment call. This is my opinion about something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I just want people that are listening right now just to be open-minded and just consider that very concept that I've just shared with you. What if that's what's going on? Because a patient healed is a customer lost. Okay. So I feel transparency is important. I feel it's important to maintain integrity in every area. And I think nowadays people want authenticity and truth more than ever before. In the field of AI, so many people don't even know it's real anymore.
Yeah.
You know, to get genuine people, biological humans that speak truth, which, by the way, truth is relative to the individual. The word truth is that which resonates with you. That's what truth is. There's some deeper understanding, deeper knowing, deeper intelligence that says, yes, this resonates. That's what truth is. That which resonates.
Mm-hmm.
And what I may say may not resonate with you because it may not resonate with your experience, and that's okay. Was it Voltaire who once says, I may not agree with what you say, but I'll defend to the death your right to say it?
Mm-hmm.
Voltaire.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've been in that industry for 20 plus years now. And my goal has always been to bring my version of truth, or at least to be as transparent as possible with the people. Jim Rohn had a great quote. Jim Rohn, one of my favorite speakers, I was another student of his. He said, the difference between greed and ambition. Greed is achieving success at the expense of other people. Ambition is achieving success at the service of other people. Okay. So where are we right now? Well, people are waking up. People are disregarding the experiences of others and listening to their own. By the way, that makes you a master. A master is one who tosses away the experiences of other people and listens to their own. Why? Well, because when you go from video to video on YouTube and somebody shares something, what they're sharing is their experience about something. That's what they're doing. Whereas a follower takes on the experiences of other people and makes it their own. A master tosses away the experiences of others and listens to their own. That's a true master.
Yeah, that was the idea of Krishnamurti as well.
That's right.
You say be your own master and your own student at the same time.
Absolutely. And the body complains, doesn't explain. It'll complain, doesn't explain. Leroy Colbert said that one time. May he rest in peace. He said the body complains, doesn't explain. Feeling is the language of the body. Experience is your grand teacher. If you want to know what's true for you, listen to your experience. Listen to your body. Have a meal. Quietly sit and watch and observe and feel what that meal does for you for the hours to follow. Okay? How many people shouldn't be eating dairy and they do, it brings about so much mucus, and they think that's normal.
Mm-hmm.
Mucus production is not normal. The amount of people that I hear trying to clear their throat after consuming dairy, I'm all for dairy if you can tolerate it, fine. But that's a perfect telltale sign of a subtleness that's going on, that your body does not agree with this. And the constant clearing of your throat is circumstantial evidence that maybe this is not right for you. Okay? It starts with you listening to your body, the subtle cues it gives you, paying attention to that. And then from there, writing down your experiences and say, this did that. That's the cause and effect formula. This does that. In 3 words, okay? So once you cultivate experiences, then your next job is to stop reliving them over and over again. From the good, you learn what to do. From the bad, you learn what not to repeat. Yeah. I only came to this level of where I am right now through messing up. That's the secret to success, is to fail faster. Is to get to a place where you've messed up so many times, you've done something, you didn't learn from that experience. So I did it again, thinking it's going to be any different, and it wasn't any different. But I did it again, thinking it was going to be different, and it wasn't any different. Okay, 177 times, Anthony, it's not going to be the same. Or it's not going to be any different. So best you change.
Mm.
Now, I've digressed a fair bit with this, but I'm trying to bring it all back to invite people to make up their own decisions about something based on their experience. All we can do as practitioners is invite you to do that.
Yeah, but on the fitness part, you see nowadays with the social media, I see more and more doctors being aware about the metabolic health and the importance of reducing carbs to a very little amount in people's lives. But in the meantime, I see many trainers who are trying to defend the carb loading so much, as you mentioned before, even though one of the most eminent proponent of it, Professor Tim Noakes, has apologized publicly many years ago for pushing what he thinks was a scientific mistake. So you said that the trainers in the fitness industry, they're pushing it, but do you think that trainers only do it by financial interest or also by lack of knowledge and ignorance?
There's a few things there, and let's cover them through. The first one, of course, is if they've built a brand around something, then they're pushing that brand, and they've probably pushed that brand to so many people. So they've pushed a particular narrative for so long. There is a financial gain there. The first thing. The second thing, of course, is ego. Once you've pushed that for so long, if you realize that everything you thought was right was actually wrong, many people don't have the humility to say, hey, I was wrong all this time, like Tim Noakes. I was wrong. I'm sorry. I apologize. I got it wrong. So now we have a financial gain. And because we have a financial gain, even if there wasn't money that was needed right now, the other part to it is ego. That is, I don't want to admit that I was wrong all this time. The third part I would say is for the most part, they're out of their depths. They don't actually know that carbohydrates do have detrimental effects. They don't know that. And you know why they don't know that? Because they buy onto the false assumption that just because they're in shape, they must be healthy. That because I have a six-pack, because I've got muscles, because I have the image of credentials, my physique brings about credibility, credentials, qualifications, authority, that I'm an expert in this field. And for the most part, the fitness industry is visual. Instagram is visual. People click on reels when they see the profile picture of a jacked guy. They'll go and check it out. And irrespective of how this jacked guy got so jacked, they'll say, trainer, buy my course, do my app, whatever it might be, because I look like this. Most people make decisions based visually on what somebody looks like.
Yeah.
And that's a mistake. Because, again, just because you are in shape does not make you healthy. I've buried bodybuilders, and I've shared that in a recent review. I've buried friends who are bodybuilders, shredded 365 days of the year, eating food-like substances, not even food-like substances. And because they were taking in less than what they're expending, yes, they were in a deficit. Yes, they were in shape. Okay. And that made them healthy, supposedly. That made them have authority and credentials and superiority in the fitness industry. Nothing could be further from the truth. So we've got many reasons why people do not want to admit, number one, financial, number two, ego, number three, out of their depths to actually understand proper human physiology and how the body functions. They've got no idea about the Randall cycle and how bringing in carbohydrates and fats together creates chronic systemic inflammation. I tell a bodybuilder friend the other day, okay, man, name me one food on the planet in its isolated state, single ingredient, isolated state that is equally high in carbs as it is in fat. Couldn't find one. There is not one food that is equally high in fat and carbs, 30-30, 40-40. Not one. Mother Nature never came in a sandwich. We created that sandwich.
Yeah.
We're the ones. Mother Nature never went out and mankind didn't go out and hunt for a buffalo. There's a carnivore guy, I won't mention his name, starts with P, last name S, right? The doctor, so-called doctor. But Mother Nature never came in a sandwich in the sense of combining both carbohydrates, fats, and proteins in the one meal. Mankind didn't hunt for a buffalo, foraged around for a beehive, drizzled honey over the top, and sliced papaya. That never happened.
Even if they lived in Costa Rica. Even if they lived in Costa Rica.
Even if they lived in Costa Rica. I think we know who we're talking about for those who are listening. But Mother Nature predetermined our macronutrient ratios for us through obligation. Obligation in biology means to submit to a certain environment based on what was available. So fatty meat was available. Fatty meat is protein and fat devoid of carbohydrates. On the odd occasion, seasonally, there were some fruits. Not the fruits we have of today, but there were some fruits. So there may have been some traces of carbohydrates or typically a tuber, a root of some kind during an unsuccessful hunt. But they were never mixed together. The food groups that we are eating today were never around back for millennia. If the entire human existence represented a 24-hour clock, how we have been eating the last 10,000 years since the beginning of the agricultural revolution would occupy about 30 seconds of time.
Yeah.
That's how brief in history we've been eating this way, and we've gotten shorter, sicker, and fatter as a result of this. Mm-hmm. So my friend could not find a food of that nature. He couldn't find a food that's high in fat and carbohydrates as one meal. Someone will say, milk. No, that's also got protein. And it's from a mammal, because breast milk is not high in fat. I mean, in protein. It's not high in carbs. It's high in fat. Mm-hmm. It's pure cholesterol for a reason. Human breast milk, that is. Right? So we don't have any of these foods in nature. And my bodybuilder mate, chicken and rice, Vince Gironda He was onto this many, many moonlights ago. He understood that rice, any carbohydrates, they have alkalinity in them, and the body needs to be in an alkaline state for optimal digestion, an alkaline medium. Protein contains certain acidic enzymes that require the body to be acidic or in an acidic state. When you bring these antagonistic food groups as one meal, depending on how much of what you've got, if you've got more carbs than you've got protein, the alkalinity will outweigh the acidity. Now, when you've got protein in an alkaline state, it causes the protein to be partially digested, which ends up as pure putrefaction in the GI tract. If you want to know what putrefaction is, get a glass of milk, put it out on a hot day. That's protein putrefaction. Okay, so when we have more alkalinity and not enough acidity, the protein cannot digest it, and partially digested protein results in putrefaction. On the flip side, let's say you've got more protein and less carbs. If the acidity outweighs the alkalinity, now the carbohydrates cannot be digested in an acidic medium. And if that's the case, now undigested carbohydrates create a fermentative effect in the GI tract. This is why the bodybuilders that I've trained, they end up burping and farting and doing all sorts of things because of the gases involved. This is the problem we're having. And that's just purely from a digestive point of view. We haven't even spoken from a metabolic perspective. When you bring in the fats and the carbs together, and it activates the Randall cycle, which I won't go into full details. If you want to check that out, you can research Professor Bart Kay. He goes through in thorough detail on the Randall cycle, and he speaks about that. But the Randall cycle is responsible for triggering chronic systemic inflammation. Okay? So the fitness industry has no interest in any of this. They just say calories in, calories out.
Get your membership.
Yes, we know that the diet sodas have methanol. Okay, is that not enough for you not to have it? It contains phosphoric acid. Okay, is that enough for you not to have it? Okay, destroying tooth enamel, destroying hydrochloric acid. Oh, well, that's okay. Destroying microbiota in the gut. But that's okay because it's got no calories. I mean, arsenic's got no calories. So too is meth. Cocaine's got no calories. So you've got to be smarter than that. The reason why those grade 3 desks were that small is because you couldn't fit into them as an adult. You've got to grow up at a 3rd grade. You've got to be smarter than that. Just because something is low in calories does not make it edible. Okay, just because something is friendly for fat loss does not make it edible or proper for human consumption. It is not food. And that's the message here to the people out there that are creating a living by endorsing food-like substances, taking in less than what they're expending. There's one guy, Aussie guy. He puts donuts next to broccoli with feta. Okay. And then he says, do you know that there's more calories found in broccoli and feta than there is in these donuts? Okay. As if your goal is fat loss, then you're better off go the donuts.
Of course.
Nothing about what's that?
Of course, everybody knows that.
You see, so you better.
Wow.
I know, man. But
is that a comedy?
Brother, this is where it's at right now. This is where it's at. That people are getting to a place now they're comparing this.
There was I lived in Quebec, Montreal 3 years, and they had this animated. It was very funny. It's called I think they have an English version of it. It's called Tête à Claque. And they had these real eyes, real mouths, and sometimes real nose, but it was an animated thing. And you had two fat, obese lady walking on a treadmill, and
Mm-hmm.
they're like suffering, trying to spend the calories, and they're speaking to each other, and they say, "Yeah, I'm preparing. I want to look like Miss whatever, like a pageant, you say,
Yeah, a
contest."
beauty pageant.
Uh, and then the other one says, "Oh, I was reading what she was saying, and she said that she's only eating one donut a day." And the other one all of a sudden stopped the treadmill and say, "Wait, wait, wait, wait! You're telling me that if I eat one instead of two, I would lose half, right?" And then the next scene is they're sitting eating donut, right? So
Well,
I put the link in the show notes because this is funny, even if
that's
you don't.
cool. I got to check that out.
Yeah,
Um, the problem we have with people that promote this way of eating is that they are glorified food addicts themselves.
yeah,
They're food addicts, and they won't admit that they're food addicts, and they need an underhanded way to justify their food addiction by saying carbs are okay. Yes, you can have your donuts. You're an addict. I'll quote Kerry Mann, you can't see the fog when you're in the fog. You've got
yeah,
to, if you tell me that it's okay to have your sugar, hey, listen, buddy. You know you're addicted when you try to quit.
yeah,
So let me put this out to anybody else who wants to debate me on this one. You do 90 days with no sugar, 90 consecutive days with no sugar. Then you come back and tell me whether it's okay to have your sugar. You know what they'll say? No, I won't do that because I'm fine. Why would I want to do that to myself? Okay, well, you do not have the credentials to speak about this because up until then, you're an addict and you're justifying your food addiction with the very cause of your sabotage by saying it's okay to have this.
yeah,
And what's worse, let's say you do keep sugar in and you get yourself peeled to the bone, ripped to shreds, dry like a bone in the Sahara Desert. You're shredded, you're in shape. And you've done so eating donuts as a cheat meal once a week, letting loose once or twice a week. You're in the best shape of your life. Guess what you're going to do now? You're going to justify that this way of eating is the superior way of eating, and you will stick with it for as long as you can because you're going to be on the false assumption that just because you're in shape, you must be healthy.
mm,
Well, I've got news for you. You are still on track for cancer. You are still on track for Alzheimer's disease. Okay? Just because you're lean does not mean you're healthy. Just because you're shredded does not mean you're healthy. And most people are justifying, they're looking for the path of least resistance. They are looking for I love this one, find the most enjoyable way to create a calorie deficit. The most enjoyable way to create a calorie deficit. I like this one too. Compliance is the science. No. Compliance ain't the science. You find ways the most enjoyable way to comply, and that includes food-like substances. I've got bad news for you. You're on track. In spite your six-pack, you're on track. Now what, buddy? Now what? Why?
I've
Because you
heard
can lift?
I've heard trainers saying if you cannot stick to a diet, that means it's the wrong diet.
That's
Meaning,
right.
like, if you pour 3, 4, 500 grams of carbs a day in your
Mm-hmm.
mouth,
Mm-hmm.
and then it creates an addiction into your brain. I don't see the point. So if you cannot stick being out of an addiction, as you mentioned before, it means it's not healthy. So being
Nobody wants
healthy
to.
means staying in the addiction.
Correct. Correct. No, you know how we said earlier about the ego?
Yeah.
I don't know anybody who wants to admit that they're addicted. I don't know anyone who wants to admit they're addicted unless they've got no ego and they're humble enough to say, like Tim Noakes, I got it all wrong. Yes, I'm an addict. yes, I messed up. Yes, this is not the way we're supposed to eat. Yes, I was looking for ways to justify my food addiction by saying carbohydrates are okay. Yes, I was saying that because I was still in the fog.
And
You
he
can't see
became
the fog.
he paid the price of it as he developed type 2 diabetes
Well, there you go. There you go.
from an early age, by the way. So
There was a triathlete not long ago who basically ended up with type 2 diabetes because he was very lean, Australian triathlete, very lean, but he was having cereal for breakfast, carb loading nonstop, and he ended up with type 2 diabetes. People think that because you're in, why is this? I don't understand this. Why do people look at the body and say, you look like a picture of health, you must be healthy? Why? Why do we do? Have you done the blood work on this person? Do you know where they're at? Have you done their triglyceride count? Have you seen their CRP scores? Have you done any of that? You don't know anything about this guy. You just see the outside and they're in shape. Yes, they must be onto something good. Okay.
so is
So,
being you mentioned some bodybuilders or people who train and get so shred.
yes,
Is being too shred healthy?
it's not because, well, the guys that I've trained are under aggressive supplementation. So they're taking steroids. Now, even on TRT, you can be absolutely shredded because, lo and behold, for a guy, anything under 12% for a guy is contraindicated. You start having issues with androgens. Your testosterone levels drop, and rightly so. The body wants nothing to do with procreation, so it lowers testosterone. It's trying to survive now.
Mm.
But because they're shredded and they're taking androgens, exogenous androgens, they're okay, you see. But it is unhealthy. And on the other side, I haven't spoken about the elephant in the room, female bikini models. You would be shit shocked, as I use the term, the amount of females I have trained who have used aggressive supplementation, or I know who have used it. I've got ladies coming up to me showing me photos. I want to look like her. My response: they've never competed before. They want to compete. Question: do you want to compete or do you want to be competitive? There's a difference. Because if you're entering a natural competition, and I can tell you right now, they use drugs in natural competitions, especially the females.
Well, probably the drug would be labeled natural.
No, well,
No.
they have ways of off periods of drugs that have a life cycle that takes them off and clears them out long before the tests come in. And even the tests that don't even come in, some of these guys don't even do tests on these natural comps. But I can tell you, in a line, you could line up every bikini model on stage. The top three are using drugs. Okay, in a natural competition, there are certain parts of the body that I look at that are telltale signs of androgen use. Okay, so do you want to compete or be competitive? Because if you want to be competitive, best you do what the competitive are doing in a natural competition. And they come to me with these photos and they say to me, I want to look like that. I've been in this for 24 years. Let me tell you what these ladies are taking. Are you ready? I'll tell you. Would you like that? No. Okay, then let's reset our expectations. Okay, let's reset our expectations. I can get you looking like that, but it means you're going to have to do A, B, and C for that. All right. That's the way the game works, and we call it the fitness industry. It's really a pharmaceutical industry.
Mhm.
It's what it is.
Yeah.
Now, my goal in all of this is I want to bring transparency. I want to bring truth. Not for you, not for the listener, but for me. For me. When I speak truth about things, it sets me free. I can look at this YouTube video for many more years to come, and I'll look back and say, this guy was truthful, man. This guy was talking the truth, at least my truth. Yeah. And a lot of people have too much money to lose by not speaking the truth, and rather just, sell my soul, than it is to give the reality of all of this. I was in the fitness industry from a very young age, the bodybuilding industry from the age of 18. And so I'd seen all of this happen and transpire. And I know this stuff. Okay, so yes, big fitness is in it with big food and big pharma. They all work together.
But the way you work with your own clients, and then probably some trainers have seen the results you get with your clients, female
They're
clients. Yeah. Do they come to you and do they ask, do you also find trainers are willing to change their approach and learn or unlearn and then do it differently?
Do I find trainers that want to come to me and learn? Yes. This is the good stuff. I've got some pretty cool coaches that come to me and they say, Anthony, I want to learn what you know. I want to do what you do. I'm ready to hit the reset button. Somebody once said to me, the older I get, the dumber I am. Because when you're younger, you think you know it all. But as you get older, you realize you don't know much. Now, that's humility right there. So as you get older and you realize there's so much little I know, I love people like that. Now we can create a platform to teach you more. So yes, I have coaches come to me and they say, Anthony, how can I start? Where do we go to from here? There's a chiropractic saying that says that Mother Nature requires no assistance, only no interference. So a good health practitioner learns how to eliminate the barriers of modern society to allow the body to naturally heal and coexist the way it did millions of years ago. So, for example, modern society nowadays, we bring blue light exposure at nighttime. A good health practitioner will either have a blue light curfew in the evening or will administer blue light blockers at nighttime. A modern society would have us waking up before sunrise and checking our phones, doing all sorts of things, right? Whereas a proper practitioner will probably rise with the sun. The first thing they would do is they would go outside to reset the circadian rhythm straight away. Basically, things that we would do in Mother Nature for millions of years, a good health practitioner would do the best they can in today's advanced society to bring as much of the old into the new, which includes the very way that we eat. It's okay to be hungry. It's okay to be cold, and it's okay to be hot. These are all hormetic stresses, and they make the body more resilient. Okay? So, yes, I do have coaches come to me, which is great to hear, to see now that the pendulum is swinging. I think people are waking up to all of this. I think people are realizing that there's more to it than just looks in the fitness industry. You want to, yes, look healthy. You want to perform well, but the most important thing you want to do is be healthy. Yeah. There is only one universal definition of health, and that is the absence of disease. That's it. It's not a six-pack. It's not shredded on the beach. It's the absence of disease is the universal definition of health. Now, if you've got high blood pressure, that's a dis-ease. That's a lack of ease. If you've got digestive disturbances, that's a lack of ease. If you've got skin issues, that's a lack of ease. If you are eating bolus amounts of carbohydrates that go beyond the concentration gradient that's indicated in the body, which, by the way, is 4 grams of glucose circulating at one time. For the listeners out there, just so you know, the body has a very tight regulatory process for blood sugar management. It only allows for 4 grams of glucose to circulate at one time. So when you eat 150 grams of carbohydrates, that's a dis-ease. It's a lack of ease.
150, which is considered for some people low.
Yes. I mean, there are some mukbang videos. There are some food challenges of people having 10,000 calories, 20,000 calories. You know, this is crazy.
But I have a question, because you've been in the fitness industry, you've been a personal trainer. I've been also in that industry as a trainer for 15 years plus.
Mm-hmm.
How do you deal when you explain all of what you have explained before, which is, as I like to say, simple and logic, or
Mm-hmm.
which makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're teaching that to a client, and then the client opposes the doctor's view,
Mm-hmm.
which doctor is supposed to have more authority compared to a trainer. So I've came into this issue a few times as the person said, but my doctor said the opposite, and they
Yeah.
wouldn't believe me as a trainer because I'm not a doctor, obviously.
Yeah. So remember what I said about experience is the grand teacher? Okay. How's that working out for you?
No, they see it well, but still,
It's a doctor.
it's a
Yeah, it's a
doctor.
doctor. Yeah.
So
So they base your decision on the potentiality of healing in the future. At some point, if you can just keep doing this, hopefully one day you're going to be healed, not noticing that that very thing that they're on is what's monetizable. Okay. The longer the delay, the greater the profit.
mm,
If we can just keep this person dependent on this long enough with the hope that one day they're going to be healed, that's where the money is. There's no money in the dead, there's no money in the healthy. The money gets made in the middle with the people who are sick trying to get healthy. And the greater the delay, the greater the profit. If I can just keep you sick enough, long enough, hopeful enough in the future that at some point in the future, we may get you off this medication. At some point, we don't know when, maybe at some point. I mean, there are people saying that type 2 diabetes is a debilitating disease. It gets worse and worse and worse and aggravates as we go along. That's what they're saying. I mean, there's 250 million made per year in the diet business. Who thinks they're going to stop that anytime soon? Not going to happen. So where they get these people is they make them fall in love with the potential of one day they're going to be healthy, not now. 12 months down the track, 18 months down the track, 2 years, nothing's changed. So I like to ask that question, how's that working out for you? If how you have been eating, in the next 1 year, if how you've been eating right now, let me predict what your next 12 months will be like if nothing's changed so far. You've been doing it for 18 months. You look back the last 18 months, not much has changed. Let me predict your next 18 months. It's going to be about the same.
or worst.
Or worse. Or worse. So, and the problem is, if it is worse, one day more is one day less. Every day that you delay it is one less day you get to experience true health. If, because life is the big if. Life is the big if. If they're ever going to wake up and get this. Sometimes they don't. Now, I train 5 doctors. 5. 3 of them are GPs, 2 orthopedic surgeons. Okay. I school them every day and twice on Sundays, and they know this. They know this stuff. But they don't get taught this, 2 weeks at school for nutrition?
Yeah.
And it's not that they're bad people.
No.
It's that the system is designed in such a way These guys have spent 12 years education, a lot of money to be educated for that long. The system is designed in this way that if somebody has a particular LDL profile, if they're not on a statin and they get audited, they would have their license revoked.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the way that it is. So to protect themselves, these guys probably agree with all of this. I'm sure they're very smart guys, but the system is what's made it like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my take on that.
But recently there is a guy, he wrote a book on the keto carnivore nutrition in French. And he had a pharmacist and a doctor writing the foreword. So for some reason, he recently posted on one of the carnivore group on Facebook that these two people asked him to remove the foreword and their names. So we don't know why, but after a few months, the book being published, that's the state of things. So
Surprise, surprise.
yeah, and but what amazes me is that most people are getting autoimmune disease or what they call idiopathic disease, right?
Mhm.
So the doctor is okay to say straight in the face, we don't know the cause of it, but we have a pill for it. And the pill is for life. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Really? Wow. You're like
Let
a
me tell you a
magician.
story. I know a friend of mine is a personal trainer in Sydney. Now, if he's listening to this, he'll know who he is. He got invited to was a show, a good morning show, 9 a.m. show in Sydney. And this guy's a downright carnivore, ketogenic guy. He can get people in shape in record time. They were going to sign him up to be on the next Biggest Loser as one of the coaches. Anyway, they find out about this guy and they invite him to the show. And they're going to ask him a few questions before they're going to get him live. These are the questions we're going to ask you. We just want to know how you would answer some of these questions. This guy can get people in shape record time. He's very good at body transformation. We sit down, we do a lot of mastermind stuff. Him and I just sort of exchange ideas. What do you think would work better? Anyway, one of the questions was, so tell us your secret to these incredible results in record time. And he said, I'll tell you in 3 words, eat more fat. And everything stopped because the way he said it, he said, Anthony, they did not allow me to go ahead with this interview because apparently if I mention eat more fat, it would put the Australian dietary guidelines into disrepute, and it would basically go against Australian dietary guidelines that recommend low-fat cereals and grains, 9 to 11 servings per day. So they did not want to have people confused about the message. One says, eat carbohydrates, keep your low fat. Now this guy's coming in with all these transformations, getting people in shape, and saying the opposite, that carbohydrates, he says things like oatmeal's for horses, things like that.
Which is right.
Which is right. And they did not allow the interview to take place. They stopped it there and then it couldn't go on live, and that was it. So wow. That's how regulated all this is. Now, I like the fact that we're underdogs. I like the fact that we don't have many followers. You know what that means? On YouTube, I'll look for the accounts with the least amount of subscribers. I don't look for the accounts with massive subscribers and massive followers. Chances are excellent. If you've got a lot of followers, you're compromised. If you've got a lot of followers, chances are at some point you've said something right, that the narrative, that the machine that drives business and all of this stuff supports your message. That's why you've got many followers. That's my personal opinion, but I'm going to go with it. So I love being an underdog.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, I'm a 1%er.
Well, I agree 100% with you on that.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been talking about adults.
Mm-hmm.
When you see the rate of child obesity exploding for the past 15, 20 years,
Mm-hmm.
and this is globally, it's not only in the West. What do you think about that?
Well, how they're marketing to children, the very foods that children are eating, it's a storm of everything. It's not just the food, it's the dopamine hijacking, it's the video games, it's the inactivity, it's the screen time, it's the sugar, it's everything together that works as a perfect storm.
Mhm.
And yeah, they target the children because, I mean, they are the future. They are the future. And you go to a standard school cafeteria, you go and see the types of foods that they have at these schools. You would be absolutely shocked. Shocked. The way they normalize fruit juice, which gets converted into ethanol, which is no different to what alcohol does in the liver and creates a fatty liver. Now they're calling it non-alcoholic fatty liver disease because children don't drink alcohol and they end up with the same things as an alcoholic does. But it is shocking to see that we've got I mean, how I don't even know what the obesity rate is for children right now, but it's probably approaching 60, 70%. It's crazy. You see somebody,
I mean, at least overweight, that's for sure.
yeah, overweight. But the norm, it's become so normal that now we see the average child who carries a little bit of pudge,
Yeah.
just a little bit, nothing compared to the children of the 50s and 60s that were just lean and slender and agile and functional. By comparison, that pudgy kid would be obese next to a child in the 50s and 60s. Like the Sandlot kids, the movie, you know, they're out, they're doing their things. There was a pudgy kid in that, by the way. But, you know, for the most part, a child in the 50s and 60s, they were lean, they were slender. And we see these children now, and we've seen so many versions of obesity. You've got smooth, pudgy, overweight, obese, morbidly obese. There are different versions of the same thing, and we call it okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's baby fat. He hasn't grown up yet, or she hasn't grown. She'll grow out of that yet. No. And parents are to blame. Parents are to blame
Okay,
because when
so what would
go,
you say to the parents
yeah,
without them having the feeling of being blamed? Because it's a touchy topic,
well,
as
hold on a
usually
second.
when
Hold
you
on a second,
address.
parent. Hold on a second, parent. They don't have their own money, their own wallets, their own transportation to go out, their own bank accounts to get Uber Eats. They haven't got any of that. You are responsible. That is your product. You created that product. If not you, who? You're responsible. And I don't care about what your excuses are. You are responsible for the health of your child.
I asked that question in purpose because I do share your views, but in many child obesity approach, they claim that you have to be careful if you want to get the parents to not make them feel that they are at blame, you know?
Yeah. Imagine telling that to a child as they get older with type 2 diabetes. Hey, listen, your parent did not want to feel like to get the blame here. So I'm sorry, but we told your parents and they didn't tell you. They didn't want to give you the real memo because they didn't want to be blamed for all of this, and they loved you very much. They loved you so much that they would rather get you addicted, inflamed, depressed, overweight, than, because they love you so much, by the way, they loved you so much that they killed you. You know, in Greek, there's a saying, when the mother hugs the child so much, to a hugging that causes suffocation. You know, I hugged the child so much that I suffocated my own child. That's not love.
Yeah.
That's not love. Love would be you doing what's best for your child because you're well aware of the dangers of these foods. They need to choose what the child needs most than what the child wants in the moment. Choosing what they should have rather than what feels good in the moment. Because I can tell you, when your child is kicking and being disruptive and having some withdrawals in the moment, and you've given them an iPad and some chocolate, you've just drugged your child there and then. And with the beauty comes the beast. What's the beauty? The beauty is for the next 20 minutes, you can have your peace and quiet. That's the beauty. Cool. Okay. With the beauty comes the beast. Now you've got an addicted child. Now you've got a child who's had its reward center in their brain hijacked. Now you may have a child that's got ADHD. Sugar in a child's brain we call ADHD. Sugar in an adult's brain we call Alzheimer's. Sugar in the skin we call glycation and aging. Sugar in the eyes we call glaucoma. Sugar in the teeth we call dental cavities. Sugar in the blood we call diabetes. Sugar in the bones we call arthritis. Sugar in your sleep we call insomnia. Sugar on Wall Street we call a multi-trillion-dollar enterprise. So just so you know, what's the cost? What's it costing you by you giving your child that? Because in that moment, no parent is going to say, hey, this is going to contribute to my child's type 2 diabetes. Have it, Dali. Have it. No parent's ever thinking that in the moment. But a wise parent does. A wise parent will say, how are my errors in my present judgment going to affect my child 18 months from now? Not in the moment. The moment, everything's fine. It's a Friday night. You know? A wise parent will look ahead. A wise parent is a visionary. A wise parent looks at the full package deal. The full package deal, brother. Again, what's the full package deal? That is everything associated with your decision you're about to make, the good and the bad and the ugly. You need to address everything. Because where you've said yes, you've also said no somewhere else. That's how it works.
But
where I said, go on.
When I look at the family structure and most of the kids were not metabolically healthy, usually you can see that oftentimes the parents are also
They're not metabolically healthy.
I was on a stadium one day and I played soccer a long time and nobody was fat in my age when I was like 10 or something. There was no fat kids. So I was at the stadium training a client who's a doctor, by the way. And there was this 6, 7, 8 years old age group coming out of the training. And I was counting because after 2 or 3, I started to count. So most of the kid, I think out of 12 that were walking, maybe 9 of the kids were fat, overweight. And on the parents, I counted out of those 12 parents, also 10 or 11, 8 were obese and
Yeah.
probably too overweight. And I turned to my client and I said, I'm talking to the doctor now. Is this normal?
Well,
So I think I like to say maybe sugar addiction is a communicable disease in a family context.
hmm well,
We say
somebody
obesity is a non-communicable disease, but maybe addiction is.
non what? Sorry, a non.
Yeah, obesity is defined as a non-communicable disease, but probably sugar addiction is a communicable disease in a
What's
way.
that say? What does that say? You know, I think people, they're just not willing to face the music. Let's go back to truth. This is the truth. You know people that put a mirror in front of your face? These are the people to be around. These are the people that keep it real for you. This is how it is, buddy. Let me tell you how it is. Now, you can justify every other way you like, but it's not going to change your situation. I'm going to tell you how it is because I see it for what it is. And it needs to stop unless it doesn't. But I do blame the parents because if not them, who? That is your product. You created that product. If you own the choice, you own the consequence. The end. If you own the choice, you own the consequence. The end.
And
So if you don't like your go,
one counter argument would be they're following what they've been told by
yeah,
doctors or the nutritional guidelines. So they thought doing something right.
yeah. Well, there's an ancient scripture in the Bible that says, now I'm no theologian. There were two really good people. However, one built their house on the rock and the other on the sand. Two nice people. So you can still be making mistakes and be a nice person.
Mhm.
You need to realize you've got to understand what you're creating. Step out of it. You know, I love football. I'm a football freak. I'm a football fan. I love football. If the entire health industry, call it, was a football manager, they would have been fired years ago because of their lack of results. In football, it's a results-based business. You don't produce results, you're fired.
Yeah.
Okay,
Quite quickly.
quite quickly, as we've seen in the Premier League, very quickly. And so we buy onto this idea that maybe one day, hopefully, if we do this, it might work. I'm telling you, it's not going to change. Because on the flip side, when you do turn around and you choose the proper human diet, the results come so quickly. Health comes so quickly. Healing comes so quickly when you do the right thing. Really quick.
Yeah.
Faster than you never thought was possible. That's the other thing, by the way, in the fitness industry, that they think it needs to take you years to get in shape. You know, it's not true. Now, on the other side, you can't get a six-pack in 4 to 6 weeks because that's marketable too, like quick and easy sales. But it shouldn't take you years. So, yeah, it all comes back to being truthful and questioning your own philosophy and asking yourself, how has this served me moving forward? How has this served me? Really look into it. You've got to become a critic of yourself and step back and look at your track record of the past. Heck, I had to do that with myself personally. I had to change identity because who I was being was not good enough to procure the results I wanted in life. I had to change. Joe Dispenza says, change your personality to change your personal reality. You have to change. Your identity has to change. Your belief patterns have to change. Your philosophy has to change. Everything has to change if it's not giving you what you want.
Yeah.
But for things to change, you've got to change. Okay? What people have right now, they have attracted by the person they've chosen to become.
Based on look.
Pardon?
Usually based on look.
Yeah. Based on look.
If we talk about fitness.
If we're talking about fitness. What if everything I thought was right was actually wrong? That's one of the best questions anybody can ask themselves. Most scientific experiments have been created and discovered and found from the need to enter something with not being right about it.
Mm-hmm.
You enter it with everything. I'm entering this with the idea of being wrong here, because what if everything I thought was wrong was actually right? So, was it Socrates that said, one thing I know is I know nothing?
Mm-hmm.
Socrates, one thing I know is I know nothing. What a humble statement that is. Because now we open up opportunities to bring you a new philosophy moving forward from here. Bruce Lee says the usefulness of a cup is its emptiness. You can't pour from a full cup. I can't bring a philosophy into a cup that's already full. I've got to pour you all out. Now we have an empty cup. Now I can pour it with a good philosophy. Okay, Einstein said it perfectly. We cannot solve our problems using the same mindset that created them.
Yeah.
These are all amazing leaders of our past. They've taught us all of this.
It's the same thing coming back, and that's where it goes back to the experience aspect of life,
Yes.
because what is good, what is bad, everybody can argue about that, but then try, see what good or what bad it brings to your life. And then
The word good and bad is relative. Okay? Relative. I'll give you an example. I can give you good and bad, different scenarios whereby it may be considered good or bad based on geography, based on history. Okay. Now, in Adelaide here, if you spit your chewing gum out on the street, it would be considered rude, disgusting, whatever. But that's it. Do that in Singapore, you're in jail. So automatically, right and wrong, good or bad, changes based on geography.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's use history. In the 1700s, it was considered good, right, to stone someone who was practicing witchcraft. If someone was found to be practicing witchcraft, they would take them into the town centre and stone them to death. Do that today. Try to do that anywhere in your major cities. By the way, there are places in Sudan where they still do that today.
Yeah.
So there are some places. But all of a sudden, right and wrong changes contexts. It's relative to the individual. It's relative to circumstances. But really, right would be that which serves your agenda and conducive to who and what you really are and what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
That's where right is right. Okay, so what if everything you thought was right was actually wrong? You know, you and I were looking at each other right now. On the ground, there's a number 6. On my side, I see a 6. On your side, you see a 9. Who's right? Who's wrong? Well, it comes down to perspective, doesn't it? Where you choose to see something from will influence right or wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. And this comes down to the parent who can justify every reason why it was right to give the child the iPad and the sugar. You can't. Any story, you give the brain any story, it will justify its reason. It's only once. I give it to him once a week. That's okay. There it is. You know, it's not like his friend Trevor. His friend Trevor can't fit in the desk. At least my child's okay. Yeah, once. Come on. Any story you tell the brain will justify its reasoning. It's to be right.
So would you say the brain is the wild horse we need
Oh, yes.
to
Oh,
control?
yes. I tell some of my clients, the brain is why you're fat. I can't let your brain take us to where you want to go. You will throw us right off the cliff.
But it's my brain.
It's your brain. It's been hijacked.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with your body. It's the person driving it that needs questioning. That's the problem. So an addiction has no logic. You can't rationalize with addiction. It's got no logic. It'll justify. It'll say it's okay. Addiction has no logic.
Yeah.
We can go on about this sort of stuff, but it needs to be addressed.
So
go on.
Sorry. So go ahead.
This is the work that needs to be done. The contemplating, the philosophy, these talks, the depth of talking, personal development, philosophy. This is the missing link in health right now. We need to go deeper into our thinking. We need to really question our own philosophies. We need to look at what we are producing as results. Again, step out of it. How are we going as a society? Are we thriving? Are we dying?
Yeah.
That's it. It's not that we didn't listen to the dietary guidelines from the government. It's that we did listen, that we're like this. It's not that we didn't listen. We're listening, and that's the problem.
Yeah. So you created a program called Lean 7.
7, yes.
Which is addressed to clients and coaches? Or
good question. At the moment, it's clients, but there is a coach the coach course that is going to come out very soon for people who are interested in doing online training and becoming a coach and using the proper human diet to help people improve their health and wellness goals. Yes, that's going to be coming out. I'm still under the works on that at the moment. I've got a few people that actually want to do the coach the coaches course.
Okay.
And go out and become Lean 7 coaches and inspire, because I can't do this on my own, man. I need a good army of people around me. And it's going to come out. In the meantime, for those that want to reach out, if people have been doing the ketogenic or the carnivore diet and they are still to some degree not ideal to where they want to be with their body composition, let's have a chat. Yeah. Let's have a chat.
So you have a YouTube channel?
It's best to catch me on Instagram, the Lean 7.
Okay.
Or go to the website lean7.com.au.
Okay.
And then from the Instagram, there's a bio. Book in a discovery call. Let's have a bit of a chat like this. Find out more about your goals, your history, your current circumstances, and what you're looking at achieving, and we can put some things aside.
Okay, I'll put all the links in the show notes, of course.
Nice.
I would love to continue this conversation.
But yeah, it's a good 90 minutes when you're having fun with someone and you can bounce ideas. How fast time goes, hey?
I think we have common experiences in the same field, so it's easy to share, of course.
It is. How about we do this? How about the next time I interview you on my channel?
Okay.
I'd love to sort of pick your brain with a few things, because I'm sure there's a lot of things that I don't know I'd like to learn from you. So how about we return the favor for you?
Yeah, I'll be very happy.
That'd be good?
Yeah, of course.
I like doing Instagram lives.
Okay.
If you're down for that, we can get an Instagram live up. I'll set it up and we can, I'd love to have you on my channel, man.
Okay, cool. And
awesome.
Well, thank you very much for sharing all the great insights with us today.
It's been a pleasure, man. I appreciate it.
We will be speaking more in the future.
Thank you so much. And thanks for everyone for listening.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.